Hey you guys, it's your girl T. So it's time for another recap of Love and Hip Hop Hollywood. I know I'm a few days late, but I have been so busy. I'm getting ready to go to the East Coast in a few days. I'm going to be out in DC and New York. So all my East Coast subscribers, you guys make sure that you guys holla at me. So anyways, let's go ahead and get this recap started, honey. Make sure you guys have your teacups ready because I'm ready to sip some tea with y'all because it was so much fuckery that went down the other day on Love and Hip Hop Hollywood. So in the opening scene, we had wide mouth ass Brandy. This broad really gets on my damn nerves. So we pick up where we left off last week, and basically Brandy bum rushes into the studio. She goes to confront her husband Max, and Max is upset because he feels like Brandy's doing too much at his job. She's cursing out the girls, she's calling them bottom feeders and calling them thoughts and everything else. Brandy to me is just doing way too much. This chick just irks the hell out of me. She's itty bitty, but for whatever reason her mouth is just wide as hell, big as hell, and she just won't shut the hell up. I was glad when Max left her in the studio and just had her sitting there looking stupid with NIKKI. Moving on to the next scene. So in the next scene we have Kamaya, and Kamaya is pissed off because basically Little Fizz is not fooling with her no more. He's basically moved on to NIKKI. And so Kamaya decides to meet with some blogger named Jason Lee. Now, I've been on the blogs for years. I've never heard of this guy. He claims that he's been with Boss Up and Media Takeout. He's doing all this name dropping, but nobody that I know has ever heard of Jason Lee. So basically, Kamaya comes to go meet up with him, and they're just running their mouth about Little Fizz. She proceeds to then tell Jason that basically Little Fizz's little thing won't get up, and he fizzes out in the middle of the bedroom, and that he needs to take a blue Viagra pill. So her and Jason are laughing back and forth about this, and Kamaya's just putting all the business out there, and she feels like Little Fizz played her, and she also feels like they were in a real relationship because she met Little Fizz's son and the mother. And I feel like Little Fizz, you know, lied to Kamaya, and he made it seem like it was one thing when it wasn't. But I also can't feel bad for her because at the end of the day she has no business running to a blogger to tell all of Little Fizz's business to Jason. Moving on to the next scene. So in the next scene we have Miles, honey, and Miles is deciding to meet up with Hazel E. He's upset because Milan is not answering his phones. He won't meet up with him. He really wants to see Milan, and he feels like he's lost Milan forever. So Hazel E is very protective of Milan, and she's basically letting Miles know that, you know what, you put Milan through a lot of stuff. He loves you. He's really he's ready to be out in the open with you, but you're the one acting shy about the situation. And Hazel E tells Miles that he has to step up his game and really do something in order for Milan to want to take him back. So Miles says that he has something really, really big planned, and that, you know, eventually Milan will come back to him, but he doesn't want to regret losing him. And I really think that Miles is just a buster. I'm not, once again, like I said from jump, I'm not buying this storyline. I don't believe that he's on the DL. Nothing about his mannerisms screams straight. He comes off as just 100% gay. I don't know who he thinks he's fooling, but it's not that serious. I think Milan is a good dude. He treats Miles really well, and I think that Milan may just need to move on from Miles. Moving on to the next scene. So in the next scene, we have Miss NIKKI, baby, honey, and if this scene ain't just put together and contrived, I don't know what is. So in this scene, we have Miss NIKKI, baby. She's sitting there trying to call herself twerking, and then all of a sudden, mysteriously, Little Fizz shows up. Little Fizz is saying that he needs a break, and he's saying that he wants to go get some more appetizers, and he just so happens to run into Miss NIKKI, baby. So they get up in the club, and they're talking to each other, and Miss NIKKI, baby is once again asking about Kamaya, and Little Fizz is saying that he's done with that chapter. He's ready to move on. He wants to pick up where he left off with Miss NIKKI. Now, to me, I just have to be honest about Little Fizz and NIKKI's relationship. I do not see any chemistry there with the two of them. I feel like basically neither one of these idiots have a storyline, and they're trying to use each other to stay on the show. As we all know, Miss NIKKI, baby is a Kylie Redder this season, and Little Fizz has nothing else going on for himself. Last season, he was playing the good father role, and he was there with his son Cameron. Now, all of a sudden, he wants to go bar hopping and sample different types of appetizers. Moving on to the next scene. So across town, we have Ray J and Princess, honey, and Ray J's trying to make it up to Princess. He wants Princess to basically stay at home. He feels like because she's a woman, she needs to be at home for his beck and call, and that she should not be running the streets with Tiara. So Princess is wondering, you know what I'm saying, how's Ray J getting all this information about her and Tiara? And Princess is telling Ray J that it's really none of her business who she decides to hang out with. She's grown. She's tired of being stuck in the house while Ray J gets to run around with strippers and go do his thing. So then Ray J starts flipping out on her. It's like, you know what? You think I don't know? You was out at Drake's house the other day. You was hanging with Drake. Tiara took you to Drake's house and y'all was partying and kicking it. And I know poor Drake is sitting at home like, why the hell are they dragging me into this raggedy ass, ratchet ass show? You know Drake don't want no parts of Love and Hip Hop Hollywood. So I find it funny that Ray J is just steadily dropping Drake's name. So Princess now is like super shocked because it's one thing for Ray J to know that she's going out with Tiara, but then she's thinking to herself, how the hell did Ray J find out about her going to Drake's house? So now she's thinking, you know what? I think Tiara may be dropping some information to Ray. And I'm sitting here at home like, ding, ding, ding. Yes, bitch. I told you this 2 episodes ago that Tiara is not your damn friend. You don't make friends with your current boyfriend's ex-girlfriend. Like, the whole situation makes no sense. I don't feel bad for Princess at all. Moving on to the next. So in the next scene, we're back to that wide mouth bitch Brandy. And once again, she's She's sitting at the house upset, depressed. Max won't return her phone calls. And then just, you know, mysteriously, Max walks through the door. So now she's mad and she's like, you know, how dare you not return your phone calls? How dare you not be here? And she talks so hard and her mouth is just so wide. And she's like, you know, where have you been? We have a child together. We have a family. How do you do this to your family? And Max is just sitting there calm with his crooked ass teeth like, are you done? You're such a terrorist. I don't have time for this. Like, he has zero fucks to give. You can tell Max is over this relationship. He's over Brandi acting crazy. My thing is, these two people have been together for over 11 years. And if nothing has changed in 11 years, at some point in time, you have to just keep it moving. Obviously, Brandi is very, very insecure. And either Max has put her through a lot of stuff or she's just an insecure, crazy female. But either way, they need to just call it quits because her attitude to me is just disgusting. The way she talks to him is disgusting. You know, so after a while, After a while, Max just gets tired of everything he's done arguing with her. He decides to go up in the backyard. And now this bitch wants to act embarrassed. And she's sitting here screaming, stop acting a fool. Stop cussing me out. Stop talking to me crazy. The neighbors are watching. And Max is like, you know what? I don't care about the neighbors because the neighbors, they probably have problems too. I'm not about to sit here in front. I'm not happy and I'm done with this relationship. So now Brandi's freaking out. She's hyperventilating. When I tell y'all, Max done grabbed that damn wedding ring, his ass chucked it like it was a damn baseball. And the damn wedding ring went flying and Brandi's ass went crazy. Now she's crying, she's carrying on, and Max is just running down the driveway and she's like, where do you think you're going? Wait, don't leave me. And Max is looking at her like, bitch, you need to have several seats. So then she decides to jump her little ass in front of his Escalade. So then Max jumps in his truck and he decides to go driving backwards down the street while Brandi is chasing his truck. When I tell y'all, this whole scene to me was just pitiful. It was sad to see a grown woman basically carry herself like this. You know, part of me feels bad for Brandi, but then part of me doesn't, because to the fact that the way that she acts crazy, the way that she carries on, lets me know that Max is just fed up with it. He's done with the situation. Again, if this dude is so-called unfaithful to you, at some point in time, you have to have some morals about yourself and just move the hell on. But screaming at him, going off, acting crazy, hiding in the trunk of his car, you know what I'm saying, just doing all the stuff that she's doing is not going to keep that man with her. I think they both need to go their separate ways, and I'm glad that Max chose to leave her. Moving on to the next scene. So in the next scene, we have Little Fizz, and Little Fizz is meeting up with April. Supposedly Omarion got lost on his way to lunch because Omarion didn't show up at all. So, you know, Little Fizz and April are talking and they're chopping it up. And then lo and behold, here comes Jason Lee. But the funny part is that Jason Lee walked in with Kamaya and somebody else, but nobody noticed them. She kind of crept towards the back and then Jason Lee came up, you know, to play it off and go talk to April. So while he's talking to April, he then decides to introduce himself to Little Fizz. And Little Fizz is looking like, okay, who is this? You know what I'm saying? And he decides to introduce himself and he says that he's Jason Lee and he's a blogger and that he's also Kamaya's friend, and he doesn't appreciate how Little Fizz basically played Kamaya. And Little Fizz is looking at him like, okay, first of all, this is none of your business. I don't even know who the hell you are. And then Jason proceeds to talk about how Kamaya says that Little Fizz isn't really working with much and that he can't keep it up. Jason is just messy as hell because what man is so obsessed with another man's sex game? You know what I mean? And even if Kamaya is his friend, that wasn't his place to say anything in front of April. And I love how April tried to jump in the situation and try to defend her friend as if she knows how Little Fizz's package works. Things that make you go, Moving on to the next scene. So in the next scene, we have Miles and Mulan, honey. And they decide to go to downtown LA. They go to Bezos. And Bezos is a really nice spot. I've been there before. So I thought it was sweet that Miles is finally deciding to step out the bedroom and actually take Mulan somewhere with his damn ashamed to be on the DL ass. So anyways, they're there. And Mulan is just, you know, he's over this situation. He wants to know why he's there. You know, what Miles wants from him. And he just keeps licking his damn lips. Every time I see him lick his lips, he reminds me of LL Cool J. I'm going to start calling Mulan LL Cool M, okay? So anyways, he's sitting there licking his lips. He has an attitude and he wants to know what's up with Miles. And Miles is basically really apologetic. He's looking really, really somber. And he's saying that he's no longer embarrassed to be, you know, around him. And he's no longer going to be on the DL. He wants to openly say that he's with Mulan. And then he even kisses him on the lips in front of everybody in the restaurant. But you know they're all background actors because nobody gave a shit. This is Hollywood. The whole gay thing is not new here in LA. So I don't even know why Miles is tripping. So then he decides to show Mulan something special that he did for him. He pulls down his shirt and then we see his tattoo and it's basically a crown and it says M&M for Miles and Mulan. So I thought that was a really, really sweet gesture. And of course Mulan is boosted by this and you know he automatically wants Miles back in his life and they're going to rekindle their whole little gay ship or whatever you want to call it. So you know I for one am happy for them and hopefully Miles won't go back to being on the DL and trying to act like he's ashamed of Mulan because like I said before, Mulan is a really, really good dude and Miles is definitely lucky to have him in his life. Moving on to the the next scene. So in the next scene, we have Little Fizz, and he's meeting up with Miss Nikki Baby, and he's basically taking Miss Nikki Baby to some movie theater that he's invested in. So as they're sitting there talking, he's saying that he wants to get back with her. He wants to rekindle what they've had before. And Miss Nikki Baby is saying that, you know, she's cool with that and she would love that, but she's really tired of Kamai talking shit about her. And Little Fizz is like, well, what is Kamai saying about you? And Nikki Baby was saying that Kamai is saying that she's plastic, you know, that her body's plastic, her ass, her tits, and all that other stuff. And Little Fizz was like, well, I don't understand where she would get that from. And I'm sitting here looking at my TV like, is Little Fizz for real? You don't know where Kamai would get that Miss Nikki Baby's body parts are plastic when she's sitting here with two big inflatable titties in front of his face. Like, I don't understand that. Like, everything about Miss Nikki Baby is plastic. Kamai is definitely right about that. So I don't see why Miss Nikki Baby is shocked by what Kamai has to say about her. So then she tells Little Fizz that she's going to be meeting up with this dude named Jason Lee and Hazel E. And so Little Fizz says that, you know what, he's not feeling Jason Lee. He feels like Jason is really messy because of what he came at him at the restaurant with April. But Nikki decides not to take heed, and she decides to meet up with Jason Lee anyways. Moving on to the next. So in the next scene, we have April and Princess, and they're basically walking out of Kitson with some empty ass shopping bags because, you know, they didn't have shit up in the bags. So anyway, so they're walking out of Kitson, and Princess decides to let April know how she feels about Tiara. She feels like Tiara's running back and telling Ray J stuff about them that Ray J would not know. And April's like, are you serious? I thought that Tiara didn't talk to Ray J anymore. You know, I don't know why she would do that. And then April even says that she feels like Tiara should get slapped. And I'm sitting here like, you know what? Now April's kind of being messy now. Now, I don't understand for the life of me why Princess would even think that Tiara was really her friend. Because like I said from jump, it's obvious that this was all a setup, and Tiara does not have Princess's best interest at heart because Princess was messing with her boyfriend. So, you know, so after everything is said and done, basically they're going back and forth, and they decide to devise a plan where Princess is going to text Tiara and basically say she's going to have a girls' night in Las Vegas, and she wants to see Tiara's going to run back and tell her not. So she ends up texting Tiara, and Tiara's like, you know, that's cool, I'm down to go. So now they're just going to sit and wait and see what happens. Moving on to the next scene. In the next scene, Miss Nikki Baby, like I said before, decides to disregard Little Fizz's advice, and she decides to meet up with Jason Lee. And so as she's meeting with Jason Lee, he's just coming off as just super messy, super effeminate. He's just irritating as hell. He's just running his mouth about all this stuff that he knows. And then she says that she invited Miss Hazel E to come through as well. And then Jason just starts going in on Hazel E, talking about, you know, she's homeless. She wasn't no type of PR person. She was no type of manager. She's done nothing. And so, you know, Miss Nikki Baby's like, she doesn't understand why Jason is throwing so much shade. So then Hazel E walks up, and automatically Jason's on the defense. He starts going in on her. And Hazel E's like really holding her own. She's just kind of falling back like, you know, I don't understand why you're, you know, coming at me like that. I have made a lot of people's career. I brought Nas Barkley to the forefront. I did a lot of stuff for him in PR. And then Jason's like, no, you were just some, you know, aspiring artist. You've done nothing in the industry. Nobody knows you. And then, you know, they start arguing back and forth, but Hazel E doesn't cuss him out. She doesn't get up in his face. And then all of a sudden, Jason grabs a drink and he just splashes it in Hazel E's face. And then her eyes start burning, and she's like screaming about the alcohol in her eyes burning and stuff like that. And I'm just looking at this whole scene like Jason Lee's a straight up bitch. Point blank, period. And my thing is, if a female was to do that to another female, folks would be dragging her. I don't see how as a man you can sit there and throw a drink in a female's face. It's one thing that she got up in his face. It's one thing that she cussed him out and she put her hands on him. Hazel E did none of that. So like we say in the South, a hit dog will holler. So obviously what Hazel E was saying was true, because if it wasn't, Jason would have got up in her face and threw that drink at her. So to me, I don't respect Jason Lee at all, and his ass needs to get off the show. To me, nobody has ever heard of this dude, and even this week, Bossip came out and said that Jason Lee has never worked for Bossip. No one has heard of him. I believe that he was just planted there by Mona Scott. Moving on to the next scene. So in the last and final scene, we have Little Fizz and Miss Nikki Baby. Miss Nikki Baby's wearing her tired ass lingerie. She's got them cooking breakfast and they're eating and everything together, and she's sitting on the counter with her lingerie on. And so Little Fizz tells her that he invited Kamai to come over to his house and get all her shit out of his house. So Miss Nikki Baby's like, you know, great, I'm gonna sit here and wait for Kamai to get here because I have some things to say to her, because I don't appreciate all the stuff that she's saying about me on social media. So then Kamai ends up walking in, and right away Nikki Baby's like trying to confront her, and you know, she's kind of up in her face and, you know, just talking smack from behind the counter. And Kamai's just, you know, she's about that life, I guess, because Kamai's like, I'm not gonna let Little Fizz or Miss Nikki Baby disrespect me. They're not about to just start confronting me and just come at me with a bunch of bullshit. So Kamai just starts cussing out Miss Nikki Baby and basically tells her she needs to watch her mouth because she'll beat her ass. Kamai grabs a bag and she ends up flinging it across the room and it hits Miss Nikki Baby dead in the face. So now Little Fizz jumps up and he tries to break break them up. And so out of nowhere, Kamaya punches his ass twice in the face. This whole situation was insane. All the productions had to get involved. They had to pull Little Fizz back. He looked like he wanted to whoop Kamaya's ass. They pulled Kamaya out the house. Then she goes running back in. She grabs another bag. She throws at Miss Nikki baby. And then, you know, Little Fizz is cussing her out, calling her all types of bitches. Now, I see a lot of people online defending Kamaya, saying that it was funny that she punched Little Fizz in the face. You know, while I'm not a fan of Little Fizz this season, he gets on my damn nerves because he's trying to act like a huge pimp this season. I cannot co-sign with what Kamaya did. Now, let's keep it 100. If Little Fizz would have turned around and slapped Kamaya in the face, he'd be facing all types of assault charges. He'd be, you know, drug up and down social media. It's never okay to put your hands on somebody, regardless if you're a man or a woman. Little Fizz didn't put his hands on her. He didn't even cuss her out right away. So she had no business punching Little Fizz in the face. So I kind of hate the fact that when a female does some shit on reality television, folks want to make excuses for her and make it seem like it's okay. But if a man was to do the same thing, his ass would be sitting in jail. So anyways, that's my recap for this week's episode of Love and Hip Hop Hollywood. This week's episode was super ratchet, full of damn drama. So let's go ahead and get the discussion popping. Go ahead and leave a comment. What did you guys think about everything that went down? What was your favorite scene? So go ahead and leave a comment. Let's get the discussion popping. All right, deuces. Hey you guys, it's your girl T. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share my videos. You can also visit Lovelyti.com to purchase any merchandise. Also, don't forget to click the boxes down below to watch any of my previous videos. Talk to y'all later. Deuces.